All right, our next goal we're going to talk about is shapes, and we reason with two-dimensional shapes and talk about their attributes, composing and decomposing, using shapes to create other shapes, putting them together, and then taking them apart. A closed figure is shapes that are completed with no gaps. Anything that has a gap in it is not a shape. We talk about the sides of a two-dimensional shape or a flat shape. We talk about angles, where two lines come together and create an angle. They will need to know what a right angle is, and that's a 90-degree angle. What we've talked about is that it makes an L shape, and they should be able to draw a small L in the corner of a shape, and I'll show you a little bit more about that. Triangles, 3 sides, 3 angles. Then we go on to talk about a shape category. The category that they learn about is quadrilaterals. This is a 4-sided shape. Any two-dimensional 4-sided shape is a quadrilateral. And here a list of quadrilaterals that they've learned. A square, 4 equal sides, 4 right angles. A rhombus, 4 equal sides. Opposite angles are equal. I have 2 pairs of parallel lines. And I'll show you what a parallel line is. A rectangle has 2 pairs of equal sides and 4 right angles. If you look at the equal sides and right angles, a square actually can fit into the rectangle category. Trapezoid has 1 pair of parallel lines. So those are some of the things. And then, as I said, talking about quadrilaterals, that's any 4-sided shape. Some of the shapes that they're going to see in some of the tests that they're going to work on: hexagon, rectangle, rhombus, trapezoid. If you'll notice, hexagon has the 6 equal sides. They may also see an octagon with 8 equal sides. When we're talking about things like parallel lines, this is an example of a parallel line. So if we say that, excuse me, if we say that a shape has 2 pairs of parallel lines, just looking at the rectangle, this and this, the top and bottom, are parallel lines. And then you have 2 sides that also have parallel lines. And then the trapezoid, like we said, has 1 pair of parallel lines. The top and the bottom are parallel, while the other sides are perpendicular, because if it finished, they would intersect at some point. A parallelogram has 2 pairs of parallel sides, top and bottom, and the sides are parallel. The other thing that I mentioned was right angles. And you know your rectangles and your squares have right angles. We know that this is a right angle. Most of us were taught in school that it kind of makes that box. What I've told the kids is just from general glance, if the sides of the shape look like they're making the L shape, then it is a right angle. We've also talked some about, just in general conversation, not necessarily something they need to know, but something they might be exposed to in a question, is the acute and obtuse angles. And we talked about how acute angles are smaller than 90 degrees and obtuse angles are bigger than 90 degrees. These are all just basic things that help them understand how to classify shapes, how to answer questions about shapes, how to compose and decompose shapes. And when I'm talking about composing and decomposing shapes, for example, the rhombus, if we really look at a rhombus and we cut it apart, you could put 2 triangles together and make a rhombus. Looking at the trapezoid, that's another shape that you could cut apart and make it into triangles. If you were to put two trapezoids together, you can actually come up with a hexagon. Because if you cut that same hexagon apart, you get 2 trapezoids. So that's just a little bit about composing and decomposing shapes. Like I said, most of the questions that they are going to see on shapes is basically knowing what the vocabulary is, knowing things like quadrilateral, right angle, parallel lines, perpendicular lines. So those are most of the things that they're going to need to know. They're going to need to know the different types of shapes and not just be able to identify a square or identify a rectangle, but talk about specifically how many sides does it have, how many angles does it have, how many equal sides does it have, how many pairs of parallel sides does it have. All of those things will be questions that they are going to be asked. I hope that helps you understand a little bit more about shapes in 3rd grade.